What if Atlantis was never meant to be found? For more than 2,000 years, people have searched for a lost civilization that supposedly vanished beneath the sea. Some believe it was a real advanced kingdom. Others say Plato invented the entire story. But here's where things get strange. Plato didn't simply mention a mysterious island. He described a powerful civilization, an enormous capital, a war with ancient Athens, and a catastrophe that supposedly erased Atlantis in a single day and night. And yet, there is one crucial problem. Plato is the first known source for the story. So was Atlantis a real place that disappeared without a trace? Or was the greatest lost civilization in history actually a story designed to teach us something else? The answer may be hiding in what Plato wrote, and what he never said. The first clue takes us back to ancient Greece. Atlantis appears in the writings of Plato, who described it as a powerful island civilization that existed thousands of years before his own time. According to his story, Atlantis was wealthy, organized, technologically impressive for its era, and surrounded by enormous rings of land and water. But Plato's story contains something that makes the mystery even more complicated. He claimed that Atlantis went to war with ancient Athens and was eventually destroyed by catastrophic earthquakes and floods. That sounds like history. But Plato was not writing a modern historical record. He was a philosopher. And that raises the biggest question. Was he describing a real civilization or creating a fictional story to make a point about power, corruption, and the ideal society? The answer depends on one detail most people overlook. But Plato gives us a clue that changes everything. He claimed that the story of Atlantis came from ancient Egyptian priests who supposedly told an Athenian lawmaker about a civilization that had disappeared thousands of years earlier. According to the story, Atlantis existed beyond the Pillars of Heracles, what we usually associate with the Strait of Gibraltar. That single detail sent generations of explorers searching the Atlantic. But there is a problem. No Egyptian record has ever been found describing Atlantis. No ancient Egyptian inscription confirms the story. And outside Plato's own writings, there is no independent ancient account of Atlantis at all. So why did Plato place such precise details into the story? Was he preserving a much older tradition, or deliberately making his fictional world sound like genuine history? And this is where the search for Atlantis takes its first unexpected turn. Then came the first serious attempts to find Atlantis. For centuries, people looked west, following the clue that Plato placed beyond the Pillars of Heracles. But once explorers began mapping the Atlantic, the mystery only became larger. Islands appeared that seemed to fit parts of the story, while underwater landscapes revealed evidence of ancient volcanic activity and dramatic changes in sea level. One location became especially tempting: Santorini. More than 3,000 years ago, an enormous volcanic eruption shattered much of the island and triggered devastating waves across the Aegean. A sophisticated Bronze Age civilization had already existed there. Suddenly, researchers had something real: a powerful ancient society, a catastrophic eruption, and a landscape transformed by the sea. Could this be the event that inspired the Atlantis story? It sounds convincing. But the deeper archaeologists looked, the more complicated the answer became. But Santorini creates a problem that cannot be ignored. The eruption was real. The civilization was real. The destruction was real. But Plato's Atlantis was supposedly located far beyond the Pillars of Heracles, while Santorini lies deep inside the Aegean. And the dates don't line up perfectly either. So if Santorini wasn't Atlantis, why does the story feel so familiar? One possibility is that Plato combined memories of real catastrophes into a much larger story. Ancient societies around the Mediterranean witnessed earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, wars, and entire settlements disappearing. Stories of these disasters could have survived for generations, changing each time they were retold. But there is another possibility, one that sends the search far away from the Mediterranean. What if Atlantis really was somewhere in the Atlantic, exactly where Plato said it was? Then the search moved to places far beyond Santorini. Explorers began proposing islands, underwater plateaus, and even entire regions of the Atlantic as possible locations for Atlantis. Some theories pointed toward the Azores. Others suggested the Canary Islands, the Bahamas, or strange formations on the ocean floor. And every time an unusual structure was discovered underwater, someone asked the same question: could this be Atlantis? But the ocean is full of things that look mysterious from a distance. Volcanic formations can resemble walls. Natural rock terraces can look like roads. And underwater patterns can appear almost perfectly geometric. Modern sonar and deep-sea exploration have now revealed enormous areas of the ocean floor in remarkable detail. Yet the deeper scientists search, the harder it becomes to find something that actually matches Plato's description. And then, one discovery seemed to change the entire story. But there was one problem with almost every Atlantis theory: the ocean itself. The Atlantic floor is not a giant flat continent waiting to be discovered. It is a constantly changing geological landscape shaped by volcanic activity, earthquakes, and the movement of tectonic plates. And this matters because Plato described Atlantis as a large island that was swallowed by the sea after a catastrophic event. Modern geology tells us that entire continents don't simply disappear beneath the ocean overnight. Islands can collapse, coastlines can flood, volcanic land can be destroyed. But the idea of a huge advanced civilization suddenly sinking into the Atlantic is far harder to reconcile with what we know about Earth's geology. Yet this doesn't completely kill the mystery, because archaeologists have discovered something that really did vanish beneath the sea: entire ancient settlements, ports, and landscapes. And some of them disappeared in catastrophes remarkably similar to the story Plato told. And this is where the Atlantis story gets even stranger. Real cities really have disappeared beneath the sea. But none of these discoveries has produced what Plato actually described: a vast island kingdom, a powerful civilization, and a city surrounded by enormous concentric rings. Instead, researchers keep finding something more complicated: ordinary human settlements destroyed by events that were very real. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, rising seas. Over thousands of years, stories about these disasters could travel enormous distances and change with every generation. A destroyed city could become a lost kingdom. A tsunami could become a flood that swallowed an entire civilization. But there is one detail in Plato's story that refuses to disappear. He gave Atlantis a specific location. And if that location was more than just a literary invention, then perhaps we've been searching in the wrong place all along. Then we reach the most controversial part of the mystery. If Atlantis really existed in the Atlantic, where is the evidence? The problem is that modern oceanography has mapped enormous portions of the seafloor, and no submerged city matching Plato's description has been found. No unmistakable ruins. No inscriptions identifying Atlantis. No archaeological trail leading from an ancient civilization to the bottom of the Atlantic. And yet, the idea refuses to die. Why? Because every few years, a new discovery appears to offer a possible answer: an underwater formation, a mysterious structure, or a geological anomaly. Headlines quickly turn these discoveries into claims about a lost civilization. But when scientists investigate them more carefully, the extraordinary evidence usually turns out to have an ordinary explanation. And that may be the biggest clue of all.